That's Dad! Mom is at the hospital! She needs you!
That's Dad, she cried. Mom is at the hospital. The hall froze. Moments earlier, the groom had been smiling proudly beside his bride-to-be, surrounded by cheering guests, music, and cameras. No one knew his ex-wife was in labor. No one knew he promised to be there after the wedding. But the girl he abandoned didn't wait. She burst into the hall, shaking, out of breath, clothes stained with tears, and her baby brother wrapped in a hospital blanket. Guests gasped. The bride stepped back, and the groom went pale. And then she said the words that shattered the celebration. Mom
asked for you. The doctor said she might not.
She said she needs you. Where is she?
At the hospital.
What do you think happened next? Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please, subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together, we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. Emily heard the change in her mother's breathing before anyone else did. She was sitting in a stiff hospital chair, hugging her knees, watching the small rise and fall of the blanket over Lisa's chest, while nurses checked machines and whispered to one another. The newborn slept in a clear bassinet beside them, wrapped tight in the pale blue hospital blanket. Everything had felt calm a few minutes earlier, or as calm as it could be after hours of labor that had left Lisa pale and exhausted. Then her mother's breath started coming fast, too fast, like she was drowning. Emily sat up straight. Mom? Lisa tried to answer, but the words slipped away. Her hand shot toward Emily, weak and shaking. A strange alarm went off, sharp, shrill, nothing like the soft beeps Emily had grown used to hearing. The room exploded with movement. Ma'am? Lisa, can you hear me? A nurse called out. Another nurse ran to the door. We need the doctor in here now. A tall nurse with a calm voice rushed to Emily. She wore her dark hair tied back and a badge that read, Julia. She crouched so she was eye level with Emily, even while the rest of the room spun into controlled chaos. Sweetheart, I need you to step back for just a second, Julia said gently. What's happening? Emily's voice cracked. She didn't want to cry. She tried to hold it back. She was only 11, but she knew enough to be scared. She was fine. She was talking to me. She was... I know, Julia said. Sometimes emergencies happen fast. I'm right here with you. The doctors pushed in. One called orders, another checked IV lines. Someone pressed a mask over Lisa's face. Someone else pulled the bassinet away from the bed. Emily pressed both palms against her mouth. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. The machines got louder. Her mother's skin went gray. Emily felt the floor tilt under her feet. Her mother's eyes fluttered, unfocused, scared. Mom, Emily cried. Mom, look at me. But Lisa didn't. Julia moved beside her again and placed a hand on her shoulder. Emily, your mom needs surgery. They're taking her now. Two doctors wheeled the bed toward the door. A nurse guided the bassinet after them. Emily ran a few steps before Julia gently stopped her. She needs to go right now, Julia said softly. There isn't time. They're going to try their best to help her. Emily stared at the bright red exit sign above the hallway, her chest rising and falling like she had been running. She whispered, barely making a sound. She's not gonna die, right? Julia didn't answer right away. That scared Emily even more. She's in the best place she can be, Julia finally said. And you're not alone, okay? I'm staying with you. Emily wiped her face with trembling fingers. She wasn't supposed to cry. Her mom always told her she was strong, but right now she felt like she was 5 years old again, lost in the grocery store, calling out for a mother who wasn't answering. Emily looked at the newborn, her baby brother. He was asleep, unaware of anything. His tiny chest lifted and fell, steady and peaceful. Where's my dad? She said suddenly, her voice sharpened. He said he would be here. Julia hesitated. Do you know where he is right now? He said he had errands. Emily swallowed. But he said he'd come back when the baby was born. Julia's eyebrows knit together. Has he answered your calls? Emily checked her phone. 6 missed calls to Dad. 1 text left on read. No replies. He's at a wedding, Emily whispered. His wedding? Julia blinked. Wait, today? Emily nodded, and then she started crying again, harder now, the truth burning through her chest like fire. He left us, Emily said. He said he'd come back. He lied. Julia didn't rush to comfort her with words that wouldn't help. She simply wrapped an arm around Emily's shaking shoulders. The warmth made Emily cry harder. After a few minutes, Julia stood, crossed the room, and checked the bassinet. She touched the baby's forehead. He's healthy, thank God. Can he stay here? Emily asked. Julia drew a slow breath. Honey, the doctors need to take your mom to surgery, and she's unconscious. That means she can't sign any forms or give any instructions, and the baby can't stay in the delivery room alone. Emily's stomach twisted. So what happens? The hospital has a protocol, Julia said. A baby must be discharged to a guardian or someone who can escort him legally until the mother wakes up. I'm a kid, Emily said. I can't sign anything. You're right. Julia gave a small, steady nod. Which is why I'm stepping in. I'm allowed to escort him under emergency discharge. I'll sign the papers with the charge nurse. Emily blinked through tears. You can do that? Yes, and I will. But where will he go? Emily asked, terrified of the answer. Julia held her gaze. Where does your dad's wedding take place? Emily stiffened. You're taking me there? I'm taking both of you, Julia said. Your mom would want your father told immediately about the emergency. And right now, you are the only person who can tell him. Emily shook her head. He won't listen to me. He'll have to, Julia said firmly. She left the room briefly, returning with a baby carrier, discharge papers, instructions, bottles, formula, and a blanket. She moved quickly but calmly, signing the escort forms with the charge nurse before attaching them to the carrier. I'll drive, Julia said. You sit with him in the back. Keep your hands on the carrier and don't unbuckle anything. Emily nodded. Her hands were still shaking, but she managed to lift her brother gently as Julia guided her. By the time they reached Julia's car, Emily felt like she was floating outside her body. They buckled the baby in, double-checked the straps, then Julia started the car and pulled into the road. It's okay to cry, Julia said softly as they drove. Emily looked out the window. I'm not crying. But she was. The streets blurred by. She remembered her father's voice the last time he visited. You know I'll always be your dad, he'd said, slick and warm. And I'll always love your mom, just not in the same way. He had smiled at her like she was supposed to understand, and then he left. Are you scared? Julia asked gently. Emily nodded. I don't know what he'll do. Then I'll be right next to you, Julia said. I won't let anyone take the baby from you. Not security, not staff, not your father. Emily hugged her arms around herself. He won't want to see me. He's getting married. Julia kept her voice calm. Then today is a day he needs to be reminded what matters. Emily looked down at her baby brother. His face was soft and tiny and peaceful. She whispered, Mom needs him. The drive felt endless, even though it was less than 10 minutes. Julia turned into the long driveway of the wedding venue. Cars lined the lot. Music drifted out from somewhere inside the hall, loud and cheerful. Emily's stomach dropped. He's really doing it, she whispered. Julia parked near the entrance, grabbed her badge, and came around to Emily's side. The doors of the hall shimmered with lights. Guests in suits and dresses moved around inside, smiling and laughing. The world looked so happy. Emily felt like she was carrying a storm. Security approached them immediately when they stepped out of the car. Ma'am, this is private property, one guard said, holding up a hand. Julia stepped forward, firm and professional. I'm a nurse from County Medical. We have an emergency involving the groom, Mark Dawson. The guards exchanged looks. We're going inside, Julia added, her tone leaving no room for argument. The bigger guard softened when he saw Emily's tear-streaked face and the newborn in the carrier. Is everything okay? Emily shook her head. My mom's in surgery. They need my dad. Julia placed a hand on Emily's back. Let us through. The guard stepped aside. Inside, the venue looked like a dream. White roses everywhere. Soft yellow lights. A small stage where the officiant was preparing notes. Guests turned to look at them immediately, confused. A child, a nurse, and a newborn weren't normal wedding guests. Julia leaned close. Walk up the aisle with me, and when you see your father, just call his name. Emily's throat tightened. Her heart pounded. She took one shaky step, then another. Near the front of the hall, Mark stood beside his bride, Sarah. He looked proud and comfortable, wearing the smile he reserved for people he wanted to impress. He saw Emily before she saw him. For a moment, his face froze. He whispered something under his breath. His jaw tightened. He looked around as if checking who had noticed her. Beside him, Sarah followed his gaze. Their eyes met. Sarah's face went white. Emily's lips parted, breath sharp in her chest. She opened her mouth to speak. Emily's voice trembled as she stepped closer to the front of the hall. All the faces staring at her made the air feel heavy and tight around her chest. She clutched the baby carrier straps with both hands, holding on the way a drowning person holds on to the edge of a pool. Dad, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Everything stopped. The music, the laughter, the chatter, all of it froze in one sharp, painful second. Mark's smile vanished. He didn't step toward her. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't even pretend to care. His jaw locked, like she was an inconvenience standing between him and the life he wanted. What are you doing here? He hissed under his breath, too low for most people to hear, but loud enough for Emily. I told you not to call me today. Emily swallowed hard. Mom, she's in surgery. They said, her voice cracked. They said she might not make it unless, Sarah gasped loudly. She stumbled backward, one hand flying to her chest like her heart had split in two. She whispered, "Oh my God," with perfect trembling breathlessness. The crowd turned toward her instantly. Cameras flashed. It would have fooled anyone who didn't know better. Mark didn't go to Emily. He didn't touch her. He didn't even look at the baby Julia carefully held behind her. Instead, he muttered, "Emily, stop. You're upsetting everyone. What is wrong with you?" Emily's knees almost buckled. Julia put an arm in front of her, steady and protective. "Sir," Julia said sharply, stepping forward, "your wife experienced a medical crisis after giving birth. She is in emergency surgery. Your daughter is shaken, and your newborn—" "Newborn?" a guest whispered loudly. "That baby is his?" Heads swiveled. People whispered. Sarah pressed both hands to her mouth, tears sliding down her cheeks. She shook her head slowly, like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Emily wanted to scream that she wasn't trying to ruin anything. She wanted to tell everyone she hadn't come to make a scene. She had come because her mother needed help, because the doctors said they needed family, because she didn't know what else to do. "Dad, please," Emily whispered, tears pooling again. "Mom, she wasn't waking up. They rushed her away, and the nurse said, she said I had to find you. Mom needs you." Mark stared at her like she was speaking a language he didn't understand, or didn't care to understand. "You couldn't wait?" he snapped. "You couldn't hold this until later?" A woman in the front row gasped. A man muttered, "Is he serious right now?" Julia stepped in front of Emily, positioning herself between father and daughter. "Mr. Dawson, she's an 11-year-old child carrying the weight of a life-or-death emergency. You need to come with us, now." Mark's face hardened. "I'm in the middle of my wedding." "Your wife might die," Julia shot back. He flinched, but not for the reason he should have. His eyes darted around the room, calculating who was watching, who was filming, who was judging him. His instinct wasn't worry or love. It was self-protection. Sarah stepped closer, still crying, still shaking, still playing the part of the devastated bride. "Mark," she whispered, loud enough for the crowd, "just tell me she's lying. Tell me this isn't happening today. Not today." Her voice broke on the last word. Guests looked at Emily with pity now, murmuring among themselves, wondering how much this child had seen, how much she had carried before she ran into the hall. Emily's breathing turned shallow. She hated this. She hated all these eyes. She wanted her mom. She wanted none of this to be real. "Sweetheart," Julia murmured behind her, "it's okay. You're brave. You're doing the right thing." Emily nodded, wiping tears with the back of her hand. Mark stepped forward finally, but only to pull Sarah close. He put his arm around her like he was shielding her from a disaster Emily had caused. He didn't even look at his newborn son. "Let me explain," he told Sarah, loud enough for the whole room. "Lisa must be confused. She's always been dramatic when she doesn't get her way." Julia stiffened. "Your ex-wife coded. That wasn't drama." Mark ignored her. Sarah sniffed, blinking up at him with watery eyes. "You told me you were done with her. You told me there were no more lies, no more secrets." Mark squeezed her arm. "There aren't." Emily stepped forward, desperate. "There are. Dad, I'm telling the truth. She fainted and then—" Mark pointed a finger at her. "Stop. Right now." The crowd gasped again. A woman in the second row muttered, "He's scolding his own daughter while her mother is dying?" Sarah curled into Mark's chest and sobbed louder. "This is too much," she cried. I can't believe you would hide something like this." Mark tried to whisper comfort, but his eyes darted across the room with panic. His perfect event had shattered. His image cracked right down the center. Emily couldn't breathe. She reached for Julia's hand. "Why won't he listen?" she whispered. Julia squeezed her fingers. "Because some people can't see past themselves." The officiant stepped down from the stage, clearing his throat. "Perhaps we should pause the ceremony." "No," Mark snapped. "Nobody pause anything. This is it's a misunderstanding." Emily felt her heart sink to her stomach. He wasn't coming. He wasn't choosing them. He wasn't even pretending to care. He cared about the flowers, the cameras, the applause more than he cared about his child's tears. "Dad," she whispered one last time. "Please? She asked for you." He froze then, only for a second. His eyes flickered with something like guilt, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. "We'll talk later," he said coldly. "Right now, go home." Emily's legs wobbled. "I can't go home. Mom isn't home. She's in surgery. Julia stepped in sharply. "She's not going anywhere, and neither is that baby. I'm not leaving the two of them alone." Mark glared at her. "Stay out of this." "I'm already in it," Julia said. "And I'm not going to watch you call your daughter a liar in front of a room full of strangers." A ripple of murmurs moved through the crowd. Sarah's face twisted into the perfect mask of a woman broken by betrayal. "How could you do this to me?" she whispered to Mark. "How could you let this happen today?" Emily watched them with wide, wet eyes. She couldn't understand how someone could cry like Sarah and still look satisfied, like the pain she showed wasn't the same pain she felt. Julia's hand came down on Emily's shoulder. "We're leaving," she murmured. "Your mom needs you more than this man ever will." Emily nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks again. She reached for the baby carrier as Julia lifted it from the floor. A few guests moved aside to let them pass. Emily kept her eyes on the ground, embarrassed, heartbroken, confused. She felt like she had broken something she didn't even understand. The baby squirmed, letting out a soft cry. Emily touched the edge of the blanket, calming him the way her mom had shown her. Julia led her carefully toward the exit. "You did the right thing," she said softly. "Your mom would be proud." Emily fought to swallow the lump in her throat. "I just want her to wake up." "She will," Julia whispered. "And when she does, she'll know you fought for her." They stepped outside into the cooler air. Emily took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling painfully in her chest. She felt broken. Julia unlocked the car and opened the back door so Emily could climb inside. Emily looked up at her with swollen eyes. "Do you think she'll be okay?" Emily whispered. Julia hesitated, and that hesitation was worse than any answer. She crouched down so she was level with Emily, speaking gently but clearly. "Sweetheart, your mom didn't collapse because of stress." Emily blinked, confused. "What?" Julia glanced toward the bright wedding hall, then leaned in closer. "Someone was in her room before she coded," she said quietly. "Someone who wasn't supposed to be there." Emily's heart thudded hard. Someone she trusted. If you haven't subscribed yet, We'd love for you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give a future to children and women who have been abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Also, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from and how did this story speak to you? Lisa woke to the sound of steady beeping and the faint smell of antiseptic. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Everything felt heavy. Her eyelids burned when she tried to open them. Her throat felt scraped raw. She blinked until the blurry ceiling came into focus. A hospital ceiling. Then everything came rushing back. The pain, her panic, daughter's whisper, face, her baby. She tried to sit up too fast, and a sharp ache pulled through her abdomen. She gasped, clutching the blankets. A nurse hurried in. "Don't move yet, Lisa. You just came out of surgery. Slow breaths." Lisa winced. "My baby," she whispered. "Where's my baby? My daughter, Emily. Where?" "You're safe," the nurse said. "Your daughter is safe too. So is the baby." Lisa started breathing faster, panic bubbling again. "Where is she? Where is Emily? She was with me. She was..." The nurse placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. "Your daughter is with Nurse Julia. She took her to speak with the baby's father." Lisa froze, not from confusion, from pure, cold anger. "He wasn't here?" she asked, her voice shaking. The nurse lowered her eyes. "No, he wasn't." Lisa shut her eyes, tears slipping toward her temples. She wasn't surprised, but it cut deep anyway. She had spent years trying to protect Emily from this truth, even as Mark slowly let their family slip through his fingers. But now everything had snapped open like a wound. The nurse stepped away briefly, returning with a cup of ice chips. "Julia will be here soon. She said she'd update you as soon as you woke up." Lisa nodded faintly. The nurse left. The door clicked shut. Lisa lay still, letting her breathing settle. Her mind felt foggy, but her memory was sharp, almost too clear. She remembered the moment before everything went dark. She was drifting, exhausted, trying to keep her eyes open. Someone had come into her room. A woman, soft voice, calm steps. A whisper brushed against her ear, so close she could feel the breath on her skin. Some families need to be broken to be rebuilt. She had tried to turn her head, tried to speak, tried to understand who it was, but then her chest had tightened, the room had spun, and everything went black. She opened her eyes now, wide and alert. That had not been a nurse, and that voice had not been familiar. She pushed the thought down when she heard footsteps in the hall. The door opened, and Julia walked in with careful steps and tired eyes. Lisa tried to sit again. "Emily." "She's okay," Julia said quickly, hurrying to her bedside. "She's outside with the baby. They're both safe." Lisa let out a shaky breath. Relief washed over her so fast she felt dizzy. "What happened?" Lisa asked. "What did she do? She didn't run out alone, did she?" "No," Julia said. She pulled a chair closer and sat down. "She did exactly what any terrified child would do. She came to find you. She cried. She panicked. She didn't know what to do. And when you coded and we took you to surgery, she needed someone to guide her." Lisa swallowed. "And you did?" "Yes," Julia said. "I escorted the baby under emergency protocol. I brought them both to the wedding. I stayed with them the entire time." Lisa shut her eyes. "Tell me everything," Julia told her. Every Emily the Sarah and collapsing Mark's detail of guests in the wedding. Crying, staring, heartbreak, face, that cold, irritated face. Lisa listened in silence. Each word made her fists clench tighter under the blanket. She tried not to cry. She tried not to break. But anger rose up hot and unfiltered in her chest. "He blamed her," Lisa whispered, horror creeping into her voice. "He blamed an 11-year-old? For my medical emergency?" Julia nodded slowly. "Yes, he did. In front of everyone." Lisa's jaw tightened so hard her teeth hurt. "Where is my phone?" "Lisa, Julia, please. I need my phone." Julia hesitated, then reached into her pocket and handed it to her. "I kept it safe while you were unconscious." Lisa unlocked it with trembling fingers. Notifications flooded the screen. Texts, missed calls, alerts she didn't even want to open. But the thing she saw first was the headline trending across social media. Groom's wedding interrupted by ex and child. Underneath it, a message posted from Mark's account. My ex has always been unstable. She used my daughter to sabotage my wedding. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time. Lisa's vision swam. He said Emily was used. He didn't mention the newborn. Just lies to save himself. Lisa handed the phone back to Julia with shaking hands. I should have known, she whispered. He always does this. Turns everything into my fault, even now. Julia placed a gentle hand on her arm. You're allowed to be angry. I'm past angry, Lisa said, her voice low, raw. I'm done being scared. He put our daughter in danger. He embarrassed her. And then he lied about both of us. She looked up, eyes sharp now. I want the nurse logs, Lisa said. I want to see who entered my room. I want the phone records, the visitor list, everything. Julia blinked. You don't need to worry about that tonight. You just woke up. You need... No. Lisa shook her head slowly but firmly. Someone was in my room before I collapsed. I know it. I heard her. I felt her leaning over me. She said something I can't forget. Julia leaned forward. What did she say? Lisa's voice dropped to a whisper. She said, some families need to be broken to be rebuilt. Julia's eyes widened in horror. That is not something any nurse would say. I know, Lisa said, which means someone had access they shouldn't have had. She mentioned had the did almost it. Died, surgery, lies. She looked up at the ceiling again, breathing deep, forcing strength into her body that still felt fragile. But she wasn't helpless, not anymore. She wasn't wearing scrubs, Lisa added. She wasn't holding a chart. She didn't touch any machines. She just stood there and whispered in my ear. Lisa, Julia said gently, that's dangerous. Whoever she was, she shouldn't have been there. I know who wasn't there, Lisa whispered bitterly. The father of my child. Julia didn't argue. Lisa tried to piece together the memory, but her mind fogged at the edges. Still, she held on to the voice, the tone, the way the woman's breath brushed her cheek. Then her phone buzzed. She flinched. Julia picked it up off the bedside table. It's an unknown number. Answer it, Lisa said. Julia swiped the screen and put the call on speaker. A soft voice flowed through the phone like honey. Lisa, oh my goodness, I just heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Lisa froze. Julia stiffened. Sarah's voice was calm, gentle, angelic. Too sweet, too soothing, like velvet stretched over a blade. I can't imagine how terrified you must have been, Sarah continued. Please know I'm praying for your recovery. Lisa breathed in carefully, feeling her pulse thudding in her neck. Sarah, she said slowly, how did you know my number? Oh, Mark gave it to me, Sarah said softly. We're family now. Or, we were supposed to be. Lisa clenched her teeth. Julia mouthed, hang up, but Lisa shook her head. She needed to hear this. Sarah sighed like her heart was breaking. I want you to know I don't blame you. Not for today, not for the interruption. I know emotions run high. I know how difficult letting go can be. Letting go? Lisa gripped the sheet at her sides. But your daughter caused so much fear, Sarah continued in a trembling voice. For her sake, I hope you get the help you need. Lisa's blood turned to fire. Julia's face hardened. Sarah, Lisa said quietly, Emily is a child. Of course she is, Sarah replied. A child who needs stability, something she can't have if she's being dragged into adult drama. I really hope you reflect on the choices you made today. Julia whispered. She's twisting it. Lisa swallowed hard. I didn't send her. Oh, Lisa, Sarah said softly, pitying. You don't have to lie, not to me. Lisa almost dropped the phone. Sarah's gentle tone, her soft sympathy, every word felt like a slap, a warning, a trap. Then Sarah added one last thing. Her voice shifted, slightly deeper, cooler. You should rest now. Tomorrow will be harder. The call ended. Julia stared at the phone like it was poisonous. She's dangerous, she whispered. That wasn't concern. That was a warning. Lisa lay back, shaking not from weakness now, but fury. She came into my room, Lisa whispered. I don't have proof, but I know it. She was there. I felt her. We'll get proof, Julia said. You mentioned logs, visitor lists. I can pull them, and I can check security footage. Lisa nodded. Do it. Her anger sharpened into something steady and cold. She wants to break my family, Lisa whispered. Let her try. Before Julia could answer, Lisa's phone buzzed again. This time it was Mark. Lisa pressed ignore. She didn't need to hear anything else from the man who had abandoned his daughter and newborn for a wedding he didn't deserve, but the message he left appeared on the screen almost instantly. You let Emily humiliate me. I'm filing for custody. The baby should live with someone stable. Lisa's breaths grew shallow. Julia's eyebrows pulled together. He didn't. He did, Lisa whispered. Mark had crossed a line he couldn't uncross. Lisa's hands trembled, not from weakness, but pure outrage. You're not taking anything from me again, she whispered to herself. Not my son, not my daughter, not my voice. She grabbed her phone and dialed a number she'd saved months ago, but never dared use. Her manager answered on the second ring. Lisa, you okay? Please connect me to Mr. Green, Lisa said, her voice steady. It's about Mark Dawson, and it's urgent. Within minutes, she was speaking to Mark's direct supervisor. She told him everything, quietly, clearly, and without tears. The forged, the false claims, financial about child, the recent threats. She handed over everything she had saved over the past 5 years. When the call ended, Julia exhaled. You just took a wrecking ball to his career. He came after my children, Lisa said. He left me no choice. Julia nodded with respect. Good. Lisa settled back onto the pillow, exhausted but determined. Now pull the hospital logs. I need to know who was in my room. Julia stood. I'll be right back. Lisa closed her eyes. For the first time since waking, she felt like she could breathe. Her enemy wasn't just Mark anymore. And part 1 ends here. Julia moved quickly down the hallway, her shoes whispering against the polished floor. She kept replaying the phone call between Lisa and Sarah in her mind. Something about that soft, careful voice made her skin crawl. It was calm in a way that didn't match the situation, more like someone rehearsing lines than offering comfort. She stepped into the nurse's station and logged into the computer. A few night shift nurses worked quietly nearby, one brewing coffee, one updating charts. None of them noticed the tight worry in Julia's shoulders. Hey, Julia, one nurse said softly. Everything okay? No, Julia said honestly, but I'm working on it. She pulled up the visitor logs first. Her fingers tapped quickly across the keyboard. The system was slow, older than it should be, still loading with a spinning circle that made her breath catch in irritation. Finally, the list appeared. Visitors to Lisa Dawson's room within the last 6 hours. Nurse Carter, Dr. Nurse Brennan, all normal, but an access swipe. No name attached, just an ID code. Hughes. There was one more entry. Timestamp. Whose code is that? Julia whispered. The other nurse leaned over. Could be a temp pass. We keep 3 of them, for vendor access or non-staff helpers. They aren't supposed to be used without check-in. Julia frowned. And today, were any assigned? The nurse checked a clipboard. Only one was signed out. Someone from catering used it to access the staff lounge. What time? 10 in the morning. Julia stared at the screen. Lisa collapsed at 10:22. Julia felt a cold shiver slip through her spine. I need the footage, she said. The nurse hesitated. You know that requires a supervisor's key. Julia held up the badge the charge nurse had given her, temporarily to escort the baby. I have authorization. The nurse nodded and stepped aside. Julia pulled up the security system. It was old, glitchy, with grainy footage and timestamps that lagged by a minute or two. But the hallway camera outside Lisa's room was clear enough to see movement. She rewound to 10:15. Nothing. 10:16. A nurse walking by. A doctor checking a chart. 10:17. Still nothing. Julia leaned closer. 10:18. Someone stepped into frame. Julia's breath caught. A woman. Not a not-wearing hospital nurse. Scrubs. Not carrying equipment. She wore a silky robe, floral, elegant, the kind bridesmaids wear when getting ready for pictures. Her hair was styled, her makeup done. She looked like she had stepped out of a bridal suite. She walked slowly, calmly, with confidence. Like she belonged there, like she knew exactly where she was going. Julia whispered, "No, no, no." She clicked forward. The woman approached Lisa's room, looked around, then slipped inside. Julia's heart hit hard against her ribs. She pushed forward a few seconds more in the footage. A nurse walked by just after, not noticing anything. A visitor passed with flowers. Life kept moving normally. But inside that room at that exact time, Lisa collapsed. Julia's hands shook over the mouse. She rewound to catch a clearer angle as the woman passed under another hallway camera. The footage flickered, then sharpened just enough to bring her face into view. Soft makeup, perfect eyes wide with a calm kind of, a faint smile on her lips, like she had all the time in the world. Julia froze. She knew that face. Everyone in the city knew that face now. It was plastered across news headlines, wedding invitations, social media posts. It was the bride from this morning. It was Sarah. Julia pushed away from the computer so fast her chair slid back on the tile. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Her palms felt cold. She grabbed her badge, logged out of the system, and sprinted down the hallway. She needed to get to Lisa. She needed to tell her, now. She burst into Lisa's room without knocking. Lisa sat half upright, pale but alert, her breathing slow and controlled. She looked up instantly when she saw Julia's face. "What happened?" Lisa whispered. "Julia!" Julia closed the door behind her and stepped closer, her voice barely steady. "Lisa," she said, "I found the footage." Lisa's heart thudded loud enough she felt it in her throat. "Who was it?" Curls. Purpose. Julia swallowed, eyes wide with something close to fear. "It was a woman," she said quietly. "She was wearing a bridesmaid-style robe. She walked straight into your room 10 minutes before you collapsed." Lisa stiffened. "Who?" Julia hesitated only a second before the words came out. "It was Sarah." Lisa stared at Julia, the air in the room turning heavy enough to choke on. For a second, she didn't move. She didn't blink. She didn't even breathe. The hospital monitors beeped steadily beside her, but everything else felt frozen. "Sarah," Lisa whispered. Julia nodded, still pale from what she'd seen. "It was her. She walked into your room minutes before you coded." A tremor ran through Lisa's hands. She gripped the edge of her blanket, steadying herself as her rage simmered, sharp and clear. "She didn't come to marry him," Lisa said, her voice quiet but filled with fire. "She came to finish us." Julia pulled the chair closer, lowering her voice. "I wanted to believe I misread it. The footage isn't perfect, but it's her, no question." Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. The memory of the whisper, soft, cold, almost amused, moved through her mind again. Some families need to be broken to be rebuilt. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. "She came into my room. She looked at me. She whispered to me. She wanted me out of the picture." Julia nodded. "I think so." "Why?" Lisa opened her eyes again, steady now, determined. "Why would she risk everything to walk into my room? Why would she come near me at all?" "She didn't expect the cameras," Julia said. "Or maybe she thought no one would check." Lisa forced herself to breathe slowly. She didn't do this for Mark. This wasn't love. This wasn't jealousy. "This was targeted," Julia said. Lisa nodded. "She planned it." The door opened slightly. Emily stepped in, holding a cup of water with both hands. She looked small, tired, but calm. Julia quickly stood and placed a hand on Emily's shoulder. "I need you to wait outside for a moment, sweetie," Julia said softly. Emily nodded. "Okay." She gave Lisa a fragile smile before stepping back out. When the door closed, Lisa exhaled shakily. "My daughter walked into that wedding today and begged that man for help. She begged him while she was holding our newborn, and he didn't even look at them." Her voice cracked. "And all while Sarah already had her plan in motion." Julia sat beside her. "She's dangerous." "She's worse than dangerous," Lisa whispered. "She's smart." A soft knock came at the door. Julia and Lisa exchanged a tense glance. The door opened slowly, and Sarah stepped inside. Her makeup was perfect again, soft and natural. Her eyes looked red, like she'd been crying for hours. But the kind of crying people do for cameras, not real grief. She walked in gently, like she was walking into a church, holding a bouquet of pale flowers she must have picked up on her way. "Lisa," she said softly, "I heard you were awake." Her voice trembled with sweetness that made Lisa's stomach twist. "I came to check on you. I know today has been hard." Julia straightened her back immediately, her posture protective without being aggressive. Lisa could tell she was ready to intervene if needed. Sarah stepped closer, slow and careful, her expression lined with sympathy. Lisa watched her with flat, controlled eyes. "Hello, Sarah," Lisa said. "You look calm." Sarah gave a tiny, sad smile. "I wish I could say the same for you. I'm sure everything feels confusing and overwhelming." Lisa didn't blink. "Yes, almost like someone walked into my hospital room without permission." Sarah froze. Not long, just a flicker of a second. But Lisa saw it. Even Julia saw it. A tiny tremor in Sarah's eyelids, the smallest hitch in her breath. Then Sarah adjusted her expression back to concern. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said gently. Julia let out a short breath through her nose, not buying a single word of it. Lisa leaned forward as much as she could with her healing abdomen. "Sarah," she said quietly, "I know you were in my room." Sarah blinked, once, twice, her eyes widening with rehearsed confusion. "Lisa, no. I wasn't anywhere near the maternity wing. I was getting ready for my wedding. My bridesmaids were—" "Save it," Lisa cut in, her voice firm. "I don't want the innocent act. Not right now. Not after everything you did today." Sarah opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her eyes drifted to Julia, who crossed her arms, unimpressed. "I came here to offer comfort," Sarah said finally, her voice tightening. "Mark told me you've been stressed. I just wanted to give you peace." "Peace?" Lisa asked. "Is that what you whispered to me before I coded?" Sarah's face shifted. Not dramatically, just slightly. A tightening of her jaw, a small hardening of her eyes. Julia stepped forward. "You were caught on camera. We saw you." Sarah kept her face still, her voice soft. "There must be a mistake." "There isn't," Lisa said. "You were in my room, and you said something to me. Something I haven't forgotten." Sarah stared at her for a long moment, her expression carefully blank. The soft, sweet smile faded slowly, like a candle going out. Then she sighed. It was small, barely audible, but it was real. "Fine," Sarah said quietly. "You want honesty?" She lowered the flowers to the foot of the bed. "Here's honesty." Julia stepped between them, ready to press the emergency button. Lisa shook her head once. "Let her talk." Sarah's posture relaxed, too relaxed, like she had finally stopped pretending. "If you think Mark ruined your life," Sarah said, her voice low and controlled now, "imagine what he did to mine." Lisa blinked, stunned. Julia's mouth parted slightly in shock. Sarah took a step closer, though she never touched the bed. "Everything he did to you, he did to my family. He charmed us, lied to us, manipulated us, stole from us. He destroyed my father's business. He destroyed everything we built." Lisa swallowed hard. "So this is revenge?" Sarah nodded, simple and direct. "Yes." "You didn't want to marry him," Lisa said. "I wanted to ruin him," Sarah answered. The air in the room felt thicker, charged with something electric. "You used Emily," Lisa whispered. "You used the situation to make him look worse." "I didn't force her to walk into that wedding," Sarah said. "I didn't force him to show his true colors. I just let the truth rise." Lisa held her stare. "You could have killed me." Sarah tilted her head slightly. "That wasn't the plan. You weren't the target." "You came into my room," Lisa said, voice cracking with anger. "You whispered to me. You wanted to scare me." "I wanted you out of the way," Sarah said. "For the moment, not forever." Julia stepped forward sharply. "You need to leave, now." Sarah smiled faintly at Julia, then looked back at Lisa. "I'm not your enemy," she said softly. "He is." Lisa glared at her. "You're worse." Sarah blinked slowly. "You'll see." She turned and walked to the door. pausing with her hand on the frame. "You should get some rest," Sarah said softly. "Tomorrow's going to be louder than today." And she left. The room felt colder when she was gone. Julia locked the door immediately and came to Lisa's side. "She's unhinged," Julia whispered. "She's calm, but she's unhinged. That woman is dangerous." Lisa pressed a hand to her chest, steadying her racing heart. "She wants to destroy him. And she doesn't care who gets hurt in the process," Julia said. Lisa looked toward the window, her mind buzzing with fear, anger, and something else. Determination. "She thinks I'm weak," Lisa said slowly. "She thinks I'm someone she can push aside." Julia nodded. "You're not." "No," Lisa whispered. "I'm not." A soft knock came again. Julia checked the small window in the door. "It's just Emily." She opened it. Emily tiptoed back in, sitting gently beside her mother, careful not to disturb the IV lines. Her eyes searched Lisa's face. "Are you okay, Mom?" Lisa kissed the top of her head. "I'm okay now." "I don't want to go back to Dad," Emily whispered. "Please don't let him take us." Lisa pulled her closer. "He won't, I promise." Her voice was steady, but inside she felt a spark ignite. She would protect Emily even if it meant tearing apart everything around them. Julia pulled out her clipboard and sat beside the bed. "We need to start documenting everything," she said. "Every message, every visit, every threat." Lisa's strength returned bit by bit, like a wave rising after a storm. "I want a lawyer," she said. "Now, today." "I'll call one," Julia said. Lisa nodded. "And I'm making a statement. I won't let Mark twist this. Not again. Not ever." Emily looked relieved, leaning her head on her mother's arm. Lisa stroked her hair gently, her voice soft but fierce. "You're safe, baby. I'm not letting him hurt you again." Julia began dialing numbers, her face determined. Down the hall, a nurse rolled in the baby's bassinet. Emily stood and ran to see her brother, whispering soft hellos as she touched the blanket. Lisa watched them, a quiet fire burning inside her. She would not let Sarah Mark break wind. Them. She would not let anyone bury her voice again. "Julia," she said softly. Julia turned. "After we call the lawyer, I want you to pull my medical chart." Julia frowned. "Your chart?" "I want to see everything," Lisa said. "Every medication, every order, every signature." Julia nodded slowly. "I'll get it." She stepped out, leaving Lisa with Emily and the baby. Lisa held her daughter close, feeling stronger with each passing moment. Soon, everything. But she was ready. She wouldn't break. Would come to explode. Light, she wouldn't bend. Not this time. Julia returned 20 minutes later with a folder in her hand and a tightness in her shoulders that Lisa immediately recognized. It wasn't fear. It wasn't uncertainty. It was anger. "Got it," Julia said quietly as she stepped inside and closed the door behind her. "Your chart." Lisa sat up as much as her healing abdomen allowed. Emily stood beside her, holding her baby brother's tiny hand. "Is everything okay?" Emily asked, sensing the tension. "Yes, sweetheart," Lisa said, brushing her hair back gently. "Go sit by your brother for a minute, okay? Mommy needs to look at some papers." Emily nodded and scooted toward the bassinet. Julia placed the folder on Lisa's tray table, her movements careful, almost too controlled. "I looked through the logs first," she said. "Every nurse, every medication, every change today." "What did you find?" Lisa asked. Julia hesitated, glancing at Emily to make sure she wasn't listening. Then she lowered her voice to a sharp whisper. "Something is wrong." Lisa felt a cold sensation crawl up her spine. "Show me." Julia slid the folder closer and opened it. The top sheet was a medication chart, covered in boxes, times, doses, and signatures. It looked normal at first glance, but Julia wasn't flipping randomly. She knew exactly where to go. She turned to a specific page and tapped a line near the bottom. "Here," Julia said. Lisa leaned in. It showed a medication order scheduled for 10:20 a.m., 10 minutes before she collapsed. Slight alteration, slight change to dosage, timing. Just enough to destabilize someone already exhausted, dehydrated, and fresh out of labor. Lisa swallowed hard. "This wasn't part of my treatment plan." "No," Julia said. "It wasn't." Lisa let her eyes move to the far right of the page where initials were scribbled next to the order. Not a nurse doctor, not anyone assigned to her chart, just two initials. S.W. Julia's voice was barely a whisper. It's her. Lisa stared at the letters, her breath caught in her chest. Her body went cold. Her pulse began to pound. Her fingers clenched tight around the edge of the folder. She whispered the name like it tasted bitter. Sarah Williams. Lisa didn't wait for the pain medication to finish dripping into her IV. She didn't wait to feel strong or steady or healed. She couldn't. Not after seeing those initials. Not after realizing Sarah hadn't just visited her room. She had touched her chart. She had altered it. On purpose. She pushed aside the blanket. Help me up, she told Julia. Julia blinked. Lisa, you're still recovering. You need to lie down. No, Lisa said, her voice sharper than she intended. No more lying down. No more letting them do whatever they want. I am done being quiet. Julia studied her, then nodded slowly. Okay, but you need to move carefully. Lisa swung her legs off the bed, hiding the way her muscles pulled and trembled. She wasn't going to show weakness now. She took a breath and lifted her chin. Where is she? Lisa asked. Sarah doesn't know we found the order. She doesn't know we know everything. She's in the family waiting room, Julia said. She came back about 10 minutes ago. She said she wanted to check in before leaving. Lisa almost laughed, a short, bitter sound. Perfect. Emily peeked up from the bassinet. Mom, what's going on? Lisa softened immediately. Nothing you need to worry about, baby. I just need to talk to someone. Is it Dad? Emily whispered. No, Lisa said. Not him. Julia put a hand on Emily's shoulder. I'll stay with you and the baby. Lisa touched her daughter's cheek. I'll be right back. Emily nodded, though she still looked nervous. Be careful. I will, Lisa promised. Julia walked beside her out of the room, staying close but letting her move on her own. Every step hurt, but Lisa kept going. The hallway lights felt too bright, but she didn't slow. She wasn't afraid. Not anymore. When they reached the waiting room, Lisa paused at the door. Through the window, she could see Sarah sitting calmly on a chair, scrolling through her phone like she was waiting for a spa appointment. Sarah looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Julia whispered, Are you sure you want to do this now? Yes, Lisa said. Now is the only time, before she slips away again. Lisa pushed the door open. Sarah looked up instantly. She wore the same soft expression she always used around people. Gentle concern, sweet politeness, but this time there was something else behind it. Annoyance. Like she didn't expect Lisa to be on her feet so soon. Lisa, Sarah said, standing gracefully, You're walking. I'm so glad you're feeling well enough. Stop, Lisa said. Sarah blinked, her cheeks tightening. Sorry? We're done pretending, Lisa said. Sarah slowly closed her phone. I don't understand. Julia stepped inside behind Lisa, arms crossed tightly. Yes, you do, Julia said. You understand exactly. Sarah looked between them, her head tilting. If this is about my phone call earlier, I didn't mean to upset you. I know emotions are running high. I know you altered my medication, Lisa said. Sarah didn't react. Not a blink, not a twitch, just silence. Lisa stepped closer. 10 minutes before I collapsed, someone changed my dosage. Someone signed off on my chart. Someone who isn't a nurse. Someone whose initials are SW. Sarah's eyes flickered, so quick it was barely visible. She folded her hands in front of her, taking a slow breath. Lisa, she said, you're upset. You've been through a trauma. It's easy to misread. Julia pulled the security footage, Lisa continued, her voice steady. You were in my room. I saw you. Sarah's mouth closed. No more. No more fake soft sympathy, smiles. No more trembling, heartbroken bride. She stared at Lisa with a different expression now. Calm, controlled, almost bored. Julia stepped closer. You were recorded in the hallway wearing that robe. You didn't even bother to hide your face. Sarah sighed. Hospitals always have terrible angles. You can barely see anything. But we saw enough, Lisa said. And you know it. Sarah's eyes softened. Not with kindness, but with something colder. Acceptance. "So what now?" she asked lightly. "Are you going to accuse me? In front of the whole hospital?" Lisa reached into her robe pocket and held up her phone. She pressed a button. A recording played. Julia's voice earlier, reading the altered medication order, and the sound of both women identifying the initials on the chart. Sarah didn't flinch. She waited for the recording to end. Then she said, "I wanted him desperate, and you were just collateral." Julia stiffened. "You admit it?" "Oh, please," Sarah said, almost laughing. "Don't pretend you didn't expect it." Lisa's fingers tightened around the phone. "Why? Why come after me? Why risk everything just to shake him?" Sarah walked over to the window, her voice soft again, but not pretend soft this time. Calculated soft. "Because Mark only learns through destruction, and I needed him desperate enough to ruin himself." Lisa stared at her. "You could have killed me." "You didn't die," Sarah said, "and he certainly didn't care. That's what I needed the world to see." Lisa felt a cold wave rush through her. Julia shook her head in disgust. "You're sick," Julia said. "You think this is justice?" Sarah shrugged. "Justice would have been watching him lose everything years ago. This is just overdue." Lisa stepped forward, her voice low and shaking with fury. "She nearly saw me die," she said. "My daughter walked into your wedding shaking and crying, holding her baby brother, and you stood there and acted heartbroken." Sarah didn't blink. "And everyone believed it." Lisa stared at her with pure disbelief. "You used my child." "I used the truth," Sarah corrected calmly. "Your daughter showed them who he really is. I didn't make him ignore her. I didn't make him push her away. He did that. I simply let people witness it." Lisa felt rage crawl up her throat. "You don't get to excuse this." "I don't need excuses," Sarah said. "I just need results." Julia spoke sharply. "You're done. We're turning all of this in." Sarah gave a faint smile. "To who? The hospital? Mark? The police?" She shrugged. "I didn't touch you. Not directly." "You altered my chart," Lisa snapped. "Prove it," Sarah said. "There are dozens of staff IDs, shared access cards, temp passes." She lifted one eyebrow. "Anyone could have made that change." Lisa's nails dug into her palm. "You don't care who gets hurt," Lisa said slowly. "You only care about destroying him." "Yes," Sarah said, voice flat and honest. "And I'm almost finished." Julia stepped in front of Lisa protectively. "Get out." Sarah smoothed a hand over her hair, picked up her purse, and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she paused and turned back. "By tomorrow," Sarah said, "Mark won't have a career, or a wedding, or a reputation left to defend. That's all I came to do." "And me?" Lisa asked. "What about what you did to me?" Sarah gave a small, indifferent shrug. "Collateral." She opened the door. "And Lisa," she added softly without turning back, "you should thank me. I exposed him. I freed you." Lisa's voice trembled with fury. "I never asked for your help." Sarah walked out. The door swung shut behind her. Julia exhaled hard. "She's unbelievable." Lisa pressed a hand to her stomach, steadying herself, her breath shaky. "No, she's done. She's done with me." Julia frowned. "You sound sure." "She got what she wanted," Lisa said. "She wanted Mark ruined. She wanted the wedding destroyed. She wanted revenge." Julia nodded slowly. "So now what?" "Now," Lisa said quietly, "I finish what she started, but the right way." Julia nodded. "Then we move fast." Lisa took a deep breath. "Call the police, and Mark's employer, and hospital regulators. We hand over everything." Julia reached for her phone. At that exact moment, someone pounded on the hallway door. Not Lisa's room, but the waiting room door they were in. Loud, angry banging. Julia looked through the small glass window. "It's Mark," she said quietly. "He's furious." Lisa straightened. "Let him in." Julia opened the door. Mark stormed inside, red-faced, voice already raised. "Where is she? Where is Sarah? What did you tell her?" Lisa held her ground. "Nothing she didn't already know." "She said you accused her of something. Something insane," Mark snapped. "She said you're trying to ruin my life." Lisa stared at him. Why would she lie about that? Because you're jealous, Mark spat. Because you couldn't stand that I moved on. Julia stepped forward. You need to back off. Mark glared at her. This has nothing to do with you. Stay in your lane. Actually, Julia said, it has everything to do with me. Mark turned back to Lisa. I know what you're doing. You think you can smear me online? Spread lies? You think you can get custody out of pity? I'm not stupid. No, Lisa said calmly. You're desperate. Mark stepped closer, pointing a finger at her. You destroyed my wedding. You destroyed your own wedding, Lisa said. You ignored your daughter. You humiliated her. You ignored your newborn. And you ignored me while I almost died. Mark froze, just long enough for something in his face to crack. Lisa held his stare. You ruined your own life, she said quietly. Sarah didn't do that. You did. Mark swallowed hard. What did she tell you? Lisa let out a breath. She told me the truth, Lisa said. All of it. Mark's voice cracked. What truth? Lisa took a step toward him. That you ruined her family, she said softly. And now she's ruining yours. Mark's entire body stiffened. What? He whispered. She never wanted to marry you, Lisa said. She wanted revenge. Mark's breathing grew fast and uneven. No, she wouldn't. She wouldn't do that. She did, Julia said. Every part of today was planned. Mark stumbled back a step, gripping the wall. No, she loved me. She... Lisa shook her head. She didn't love you. She hated you. Mark pressed his hands to his head, pacing. This can't be happening. This is your fault, all of it. No, Lisa said. This is yours. She reached for Julia's hand. Call them, Lisa said. Julia nodded and stepped into the hallway to make the calls. Police, hospital regulators, Mark's employer. Mark stared at her, eyes wide and panicked. What are you doing? He whispered. Finishing it, Lisa said. Mark stared at Lisa like the floor had vanished beneath him. His face was blotchy, his breath uneven, his hands shaking in a way Lisa had never seen before. Not even during their worst fights. You can't do this, he whispered. Lisa, please. You're angry. You're confused. Sarah's lying to you. She didn't lie, Lisa said. She told me what you did to her family. Mark blinked fast. Her family? That was her father's failing, not mine. She said you conned them, Lisa said. Mark's jaw tightened. She's manipulating you. She always wanted control. She wanted revenge, Lisa finished. And she got it. Mark swallowed hard. Where is she? I need to talk to her. I can fix this. Julia stepped back into the room, her phone still in her hand. Too late. Your employer already has the documents. They're opening an internal investigation today. Mark's eyes widened. You sent them? Already? Yes, Julia said simply. And that's not all, Lisa said. I also talked to the hospital's legal team. The police are reviewing the footage and the altered medication order. Mark took a shaky breath. You're trying to ruin my life. No, Lisa said. I'm protecting mine. He stared at her, breathing fast. Emily needs a father. She has one, Lisa said. You just chose not to be it. Mark looked at Julia, then at the floor, then back at Lisa. You don't understand what Sarah's capable of. I understand enough, Lisa said. No, you don't, Mark's voice cracked. She's ruthless. She'll burn everything down just to prove a point. She already did, Lisa cut in. Mark's shoulders slumped, and in that moment he looked small. Not powerful, not intimidating, just small. Then the door opened. Every head turned. Sarah stepped in quietly, wearing a long coat and a small purse slung over her shoulder. Her face was soft and calm, like nothing had happened, like she hadn't burned an entire life down in a single day. Mark froze. Sarah! Don't, she said, raising one hand. Not a word. Mark stepped closer anyway. We can talk about this. I know you're upset. I know things got out of control. But we can fix. You ruined my family, Sarah said, her voice cold and quiet. So I ruined yours. Mark's mouth opened, but no sound came out. You used my father. Sarah continued. You drained him dry. You told us lies for years. You made promises you never meant to keep. And when everything collapsed, you walked away like we were nothing. I didn't. Sarah, listen. I listened then, she said. Not now. Lisa stood straighter. You used my family to destroy his. Sarah nodded. Yes. You could have killed me, Lisa said. Sarah shrugged one shoulder. But you lived. Julia stepped forward. You messed with medical orders. That's a felony. Sarah smiled faintly. Good thing you can't prove it. We have your initials, Julia said. You have letters, Sarah replied, and dozens of staff badges, and an entire wing of shared access. She looked at Mark. But what you did, that's easy to prove. Mark shook his head. Please don't do this. She tilted her head. It's already done. Lisa reached for her phone. Julie and I are turning in everything. The footage, the chart, the logs. Sarah's eyes flicked to her. For the first time, something sharp appeared behind them. Whatever you need to do, she said softly. Just be careful who you trust next time. She turned toward the door. Where are you going? Mark asked, his voice barely audible. Away, Sarah said. Far away. My job is finished. You're leaving, he whispered, horrified. Yes, she said simply. You have nothing left for me to destroy. Mark stumbled back, hitting the wall with his shoulder. Sarah, please. But she didn't look at him again. She walked out of the room and down the hall, her footsteps slow and elegant, like she was walking away from a party she'd grown bored of. Lisa watched her leave. She didn't feel scared anymore. She felt finished. Julia let out a long breath. Well, that's done. Not yet, Lisa said. There's one more call. She dialed Mark's employer again, confirming the documents were sent. She sent the footage. She sent the chart. She sent every message Mark had ever used to manipulate her. Julia added hospital regulators to the call, then the police. They were already reviewing the footage from earlier. Mark didn't fight. He just sank into a chair, shaking, staring at the same spot on the floor. When the calls were done, Lisa turned to Julia. Thank you. Julia smiled gently. You did the hard part. Emily walked in then, holding the baby carefully. Mom, is it over? Lisa opened her arms. Yeah, she said softly. It's over. Emily moved into her side, hugging tightly. Thank you for not letting them take us. Lisa kissed her forehead. I never will. Julia helped settle the baby into the bassinet. Emily looked up at her with tired eyes. Thank you for not letting me go alone. Julia's throat tightened slightly. You were very brave, sweetheart. A few hours later, after statements were filed and officials were contacted, Mark was escorted from the hospital by 2 officers. Not in handcuffs, but close. Enough to draw attention. Enough to humiliate him. He didn't resist. He didn't look back. Word spread fast. His employer suspended him immediately. The hospital issued a statement. Social media exploded with videos and posts. The truth moved faster than the lies had. And then, the final blow. A news alert flashed across the TV in Lisa's room. Anonymous source leaks documents proving Mark Dawson's financial fraud. Lisa didn't need to wonder who leaked it. It was Sarah's last act. And with that, it was done. Lisa lay back in her bed, Emily curled beside her, Julia sitting nearby to make sure she rested. The baby slept peacefully in his bassinet. For the first time all day, the room was quiet. Really quiet. Lisa breathed in slowly, then out. Her voice was soft when she finally spoke. Families break when people stop protecting each other, she said. Emily looked up at her. But sometimes survival grows from the wreckage of betrayal.